All right. So the topic, as you all know, is delegation, and when we were talking about leadership skills and styles, and some of the things that are important for good leaders, and that is being able to delegate. And I call it the do-it-yourself guide to delegation, kind of tongue in cheek, just because it really is about you as the leader learning how to delegate and finding the right process for you so that you can effectively become a good leader through delegation, because it does start with you. So why do you delegate? Well, clearly because you can't do it all yourself. I know there are, especially in a volunteer organization such as ours, there are the few that do the most. And so we tend to get caught in that trap. Let's always go to the ones that we know can do it. Let's, just, it's easier for us to do that or do it ourselves. And I'm guilty of that over the years. I'm getting better. And simply the reason why to delegate is because you can't do it all. You can't do it all effectively. So one of the things that we need to learn how to do is develop our members to make sure that they get to learn how to be leaders, that they're given the skills and the ability to become not only um, leaders in whatever position they're in now, but maybe to succeed you so that you can move on, or you can do things that you might want to do, that you can get those I don't want to do those items off your list and get other people to help you. So that's the key reason. And it is hard. So here are the two big things. And the source of all this information is some of my personal experience, along with going out on the internet. And as Tony said earlier, if you find it on Google and on the internet, it must be true. Well, there's a plethora of sites and books and things that you can go and find. And I've pulled them all. I didn't give the credits for it because I just didn't have time to pull it all together. But essentially, it's little snippets of things that I caught in websites, snippets of things I found in books that I downloaded, and other things that I pulled together and tried to give it more of a focus for us as a volunteer organization, which is even more complicated. So the two of the biggest reasons that we struggle with delegating is we are fearing that we would lose control. So if you are that type A personality, you are a perfectionist, any of those types of words that describe you, you're probably going to have a tougher time delegating, because you've always discovered that if I do it myself, it'll be done right. The other thing is dropping the ball. It's very scary to hand over the control to someone else if there's risk involved. So if it's something within the chorus, people wouldn't know if something didn't happen. It's less risky than if we're talking about, okay, we've got a show that we're putting on. We can't drop the ball with any of those pieces of that show. So how do we manage that? And that's the stuff that we struggle with. And so basically what you're going to have to figure out is, why are you not letting go of that control? And here are some perfect things, and I see myself in quite a few of these. Control freak. I can do it better. I can do it faster. I might as well just do it. Okay, there's the martyr syndrome kicking in, right? I'm too busy. Well, why are you too busy? Because you're doing everything. It takes too much time for me to delegate because I don't have any time. Okay, well, that's a double-edged sword. First-time leaders, this is just a case of I got here and I'm going to show you I know how to do it. So I don't want to dilute my capability and show weakness if I'm not able to handle it all myself. Well, you're going to need to change your tune on that one. Insecurity. There's cases where people, they get laid off and they're actually teaching somebody to come and replace them. So that's a legitimate issue. But in this case, what we're doing is we're empowering our members. So they're still going to need you. They're going to need you in some capacity. So having this philosophy that they won't need anymore if I teach them how to do it is not true. It will give them an opportunity to learn it, and you get an opportunity to go on and learn something else yourself. Fear of rejection. This one's a little iffy on the compensation thing, but you need to find out why they would fear being rejected. It's there's issues of time and money and so forth. What's the payback? What can you do to make it more palatable for them to do the work for you when they're not getting paid? Really tough in a volunteer organization because nobody gets paid. They're too busy. Well, how do you know they're too busy? Are they telling you they're too busy? Are they, you just assume they're too busy? So these are the things that, where again, this is more of a martyr syndrome. Why should I have them do the work? I can just do it myself. It's just, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to, all those kinds of things that you have decided is your story. So you need to change that script. And then there's a lack of trust. Simply, I don't trust them to do it right or as well as I do. Well, you have to develop that trust. So again, these are things about you that are stopping you from being an effective delegator. Okay. And this is what happens on the flip side. So if you say, I'll just do it, they're too busy, the member's reaction is they have a lack of confidence in me. They don't believe I can do the work. And maybe I don't have what it takes. So if you see the flip side of this, now you're going, well, I would never want to make anybody feel this way. So I've got to change the way I react and work with these members that I'm asking to assist with these projects or programs. I'll just do it. I'll be more efficient. Again, this is a lack of investment, a lack of control by the members side of it. They always step in and take on the job. There's nothing for me to do. Why should I bother? Why should I have any ownership if they're just going to come in and fix it, or they're going to micromanage me to the point where I'm just really doing what they're telling me to do, as opposed to being asked to take on some authority and have some ownership in it. And then the final one is, I'll do it. I have the most expertise. I'm better at this. That's again a lack of engagement. The leader doesn't value me, doesn't want to invest in me. So anything that I do, they redo it. I've had leaders do that to me. It's like, well, why did I spend all that time if you're just going to do it over? So those are the things that we need to be aware of, is what is the reaction to your stance on this whole issue of delegating. Okay. There is hope. Okay. This is an acquired skill. I don't, you hear the words art of delegation. It's not art. It's not artistry. This is a muscle. This is an acquired skill that you have to actually develop. And if you are the go-getter, I'm just going to get it done type of person, you're going to have a steeper learning curve because of that, because you're going to have to stop yourself and recognize, here I go again. I've got to flex my delegation muscle. I've got to continue to use that. Okay. You can't will your way to becoming a stronger delegator. You've got to have a plan. You've got to figure out how to do that. And that's what this class is hopefully going to help you with, is to figure out what things can I do? What do I need to put into play so that I can actually begin delegating more effectively, and then maybe be the role model for somebody else to do the same thing. Okay. And as with anything, practicing these skills, is something that will eventually become a healthy habit. So any habits that you have are developed, whether they're good or not so good. So you need to change your non-delegating habit to a delegating habit, and you need to do it with a plan in place. Okay, so first thing you need to do is figure out, what can you delegate? And you need to make a list of everything you do, and you're probably going to be exhausted by the time you get to the bottom of it. But basically take everything that you're doing in your Sweet Adeline life. You can apply this to your personal life. You can apply this to your professional life. What am I doing? Just all the nitpicky little stuff that goes into. So if you're the show chair, that's a huge list. If you are a section leader, that's a smaller list. If you're a team leader or a leader of a team, you're going to have a scope that you work within. What are all the things that you're doing in that? And what are all the things that are required to make that group or that project work? And just list it all, good, bad, or indifferent. And then you start looking at the things that you want to keep, that you must do, or that you want to do. And in the must do categories, it may be because of the legal constraints. So if there's things that you have to do because of legally, and that this kind of applies more in the professional world and personal world, but there are some things as a like a chorus leader, say the team leader has to do this, the financial person has to do that. You know, there's some things that they have to do because of the role that they're playing. And then the flip side of that would be where you are the only one who has the expertise, and it would be impossible or impractical to try to train somebody to do what you do. So those are the things that you must do. The other side of that are what's the stuff that brings you joy? What are the things you like to do, what you want to do, and keep those on your plate. And then what's left, then you prioritize. What can I potentially delegate either in part or in whole, so that you can free up more time to concentrate on the tasks that only you can do. And that's where the prioritizing piece of that is what's going to give me back more time. That's the priority. And then you work down the list of things that other things that you can delegate, and then organize them by categories. So you can determine what things do these people have to have in the way of skill sets, what kind of time frames are involved, what kind of resources are involved, what is it going to take to allow these tasks to be completed, you know. And this is really a lot of the work, at least up front, is figuring all this out. Okay, any questions so far or comments? Okay, you can pop stuff in the chat if you think of things. So okay, so I'll keep going. And now we get to the tricky task. Who can you delegate to? So you can select these people by interviewing them, and this can be done in a few different ways. And maybe some of you have already done this, where you send out a skills survey and find out from your members. So you're going to basically craft questions that are going to lead you to the skill sets and the people that can help you with those items. And not only their skills, but their interests, because you'll find that people will want to help out if they're interested in it. And you might find that things that they're interested in might not be, you know, in the Sweet Adeline's realm, but could translate very easily. Same with skills. Okay. So you want to see what they're good at, or what they're working on, or what they want to work on. Are they, what kind of team player, if you will, are they? Do they possess good leadership skills already, so they could lead a group, they could lead a project? Are they a good team member? So they don't want to be in charge of anything, which you can probably hear a lot, but they do want to participate in it, and they like to work in groups. And then you've also got those people who just like to do stuff on their own, you know, it's just solo tasks. So you look at all these things and all these different categories, and you begin to build a kind of a framework of how to plug people in to the list of things that you developed in that first the slide before this. Do they prefer short-term or long-term projects? Is this a one-time thing? We're just going to do a pop-up fundraiser. We'll probably never do it again. We're going to do a raffle at the rehearsals, something that's just like very, you know, small in scope. Or is this something that's a perpetual thing? We do a show every year. We have performances, we have, you know, competition, you know, those are things that will continue. So those are the other classifications you want to look at. And then obviously getting references, recommendations from other people, you know, having conversations not only with your membership about what they like to do and what they're good at, but also talk to people who have observed them to see how they function. So you're basically getting some reference basis here. So even though they say they're good at something, maybe in reality they need to be shepherded along to make sure that they finish it. So those kinds of things, knowing who you're working with, and how they work will help you to avoid any traps or situations where you go back to, okay, well, I'll just do it myself, never mind, right? So, okay, and so having the discussion, so you've come up with something that you want to have somebody help you with, and you've decided on the person that you want to talk to. So you need to be careful about how you craft this so that they are clear on the parameters and they can give you an educated response to this request. So if you say to somebody, I'd like you to take care of being show chair, and they go, and what's involved? Oh, just, you get the venue and you just kind of sprinkle little things for them. And then they go off and try to be show chair. You've set them up for failure. It's just not going to work. They may discover, oh, well, I didn't realize how much time it was going to take. I didn't realize how many people I'd have to get involved. So those are the kinds of things you want to just be thinking about. So you found the person that you think is most likely to do this task. So then you have to have a discussion with them. So it's kind of like a job interview, so to speak. Here's what I want you to work on. I want to, and you have to describe the task to be delegated. So that's exactly what it is that you're wanting them to do. You got to sell them on it. Like, I know you're the right person for this. So, just this is where you get past the, I don't want to help. I don't really want to do that, even though they have the skills and it. So you're kind of prodding and pushing them to do it. So you're going to do a little sales pitch with them. Don't be, Pollyanna-ish about it. Don't be, don't tell anything other than the truth about the person and what you see in them during this session. Gain agreement from them that they are, willing to do this. You have to agree on what support is needed. Are they going to need help? Do they need to shadow somebody? Do they need a team? All those kinds of things. How are we going to monitor the progress of the task? Do we want to have Zoom calls? Because now we have that, which makes it a lot easier. Do you want me to work with you in person while we develop it first, and then we go to Zoom, and then we go, what does that look like? How often do we get together? How much involvement do you need from the leader? How much involvement does the person that's going to be doing the work for you, how much do you need to provide to them, and those kinds of things. And then what the next steps are. So they've agreed to do it, and then you just go away. It's like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, so you need to plan a meeting, you need to gather these resources, et cetera, and so on. So these are the framework of the next item. Giving proper instructions. Okay, so there's this story that I found on the internet, which is just, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's just so true. So once upon a time, a brand new hotel employee was asked to clean the elevators and report back to his supervisor once the task was completed. The end of the day came, and the employee never reported back. The supervisor simply assumed that, like the rest of those she had hired, that the employee had quit. So they just disappeared. However, after 3 days, the supervisor bumped into the new employee, and he was inside one of the elevators cleaning it. And the supervisor, in an accusatory voice, asked, "You surely haven't been cleaning these elevators for 3 days, have you?" "Yes, sir, I have," said the employee. "This is a huge job, and I'm not done yet. Do you realize there are over 45 of them, 2 on each floor, and sometimes they're not even there?" So again, funny example, but if you don't give them proper instructions, this is the kind of stuff that can happen. They go off and do what they think they should be doing, and you had failed to tell them what your expectations were. So you've got to give them a complete and precise list of instructions. And this is the hardest part, because you've got to dive into the detail. And this is, and if you need help doing this, maybe this is something that you could get some assistance with. You got to identify all the tasks. So again, if we go back to the show chair thing, there are so many things involved in that. You've got to have the music team putting together the show. The director has to have rehearsal time. the financial person has to be writing deposit checks, and maybe they're the ones that sign the contracts for the venue. You've got programs, you know, all the stuff backstage. You got to get the risers there. So if you look at that whole thing, it's huge. And it's got to be completely spelled out, because if you leave anything off, it could be catastrophic. And if you leave off little things, not so much. But if you leave off some of these big things, you could run into situations. And that's where that fear factor runs in. Somebody might drop the ball. Well, you got to lay out where the process is, what needs to be done when. Do they need help? What kind of resources do you need? So day of the show, we need people to put up the decorations. We need people to to hand out the programs. We need somebody selling tickets, depending on which venue you're in. But all those things need to be identified, and then you need to find out who's going to help with all that, because certainly just the show chair couldn't do that. What's the final product? Well, we want to have a successful show. We want to make sure there aren't any hitches in the flow of the program. We want to make sure that our patrons feel that they've gotten good value out of this. I mean, all those kinds of things. And that's a really big example, but that's probably one of the better ones, because it's the biggest. Identify their level of authority and provide proper training. And we'll get into those two issues as we go. Okay, so levels of authority. Now this is where we get into how important is the project, and what knowledge and expertise does the person doing the job have. And you can use this as a guideline for you to figure out how to essentially give them authority to take on these tasks that you've assigned them. Again, delegating is not the same as telling them what to do. Okay, telling them what to do is just simply, you know, put a stamp on an envelope and then give it back to me when you're done. So that, you know, that's really, you're just telling them, not letting them choose the envelope or what stamp or any of that, right? So in this case, you've got 3 levels that are generally assigned. One is the authority to recommend. So you're basically going to hand it over. They're going to come to you and say, this is what I recommend, and they run with it. Okay. So you've given them full authority. That's usually going to be in cases where it's low to medium, high to medium with high to medium expertise and knowledge. So if these people have done this before, and the importance is you know that they are going to be able to handle it, then they're going to do the full. I think I've got these flipped around. I do. Okay, note to self, I got to fix the slide. I was trying to reconcile this in my head. So recommending is actually where you're just saying, this is what I would like you to do, and then the person takes it on. Sorry about that little snafu here. Inform and initiate is a shared thing. So we're going to work together. You're going to let me know, and I'm going to allow you to initiate, or you're going to be able to initiate those things once you've let me know what you want to do, and you can go on with it. And then the authority to act, that's the big one. That's the full. I should have flipped them around. So I tried to combine a couple together because I like the wording, and I blew it. So apologies. So the authority to act. So this is where you're gonna be able to do the things that you have said that you wanted to do, and just go ahead and do it. So I gotta fix this slide. I will. So anyway. And then in the next area, it's managing expectations. So what are you expecting out of the delegation of this task? What should the final product look like? So if I tell you to go off and do a flyer, what do I want that flyer to look like? Give them some examples. I want it to be professional. Some people are not very savvy with graphic arts and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that whatever your product is that you're giving out to your public is professional, and it reflects your image and what you are going to present to either new members, people that are going to come and watch your shows, or people that you're going to want to give you money. So, donors and so forth. What does the timeline look like? There's oftentimes a deadline, like the final product, and then there's interim steps along the way where we have to see where they are. So in the case of the flyer, you'll want a rough draft. How many weeks or months ahead of the time that the flyer is needed? You're going to need to go through, choosing someone to produce it, looking at the final copy before it goes to print, getting the item printed, and then getting the item to the place where you would actually hand it out, or whatever the situation might be. Are there dependencies? So if I'm doing that flyer subject, and I'm going to be dependent on the printing company to be able to produce it within the time frame I need, I've got to know how much lead time do I have to give to make sure that they have it in their hands, so that by the time I go to the show or the event or whatever, that it's in hand and I'm not scrambling and going, where is my collateral information, my collateral material? Okay. And then obviously, when does it need to be fully completed? So there's, if you're talking about a show, the day of the show is the deadline. So everything has to be done prior to that. And so the dependencies may drive what that particular task is as it relates to when it needs to be fully completed. And so, so oftentimes when you delegate things, you assume they know what you want, and you can't, because just as you can't read their minds, they can't read yours. So you've got to be very clear about this. So writing things out, documenting them, having people that have done the work come to you with a laundry list of what has to be done and any lessons learned will help with this aspect. Okay. All right. And then there's the support and follow-up. So what we're talking about here is monitoring the person that's doing the work without hovering and micromanaging. So you need to be able to, know what you want to have delegated, give them all the instructions as to what you want and what the expected outcome is going to be, and then work with them, as we talked about in the interview process. What does the support mechanism look like? I'm going to help you through this, or I'm going to get you help. What does that look like? So you need to set up a schedule with them to make sure that they're on the right track and have the support they need. And maybe you'll do more frequent check-ins as you get started, and they may then extend out. So maybe you do once a week, depending on how the length of the project. And then maybe it moves to once a month where we check in. So for like a more long term. And how does that meeting look? Do we have to be in person? Obviously with a mask these days. Can we do it via Zoom? Hello, silver lining. We don't have to travel. We can actually do this kind of collaborative effort and share screens. What does that look like? And so that both parties are in agreement. And then give them the support and the encouragement and the praise along the way, so that you're making sure that they feel valued. And if they produce something, don't immediately go to the critical conversation. I tend to do that because I'm like right to got to get this done. And, I've got to understand that a lot of work went into getting it this far. And now I've got to, first of all, recognize that they did the work and encourage them and say, this is awesome. Okay, so let's do a little tweaking here. And then the other side of this is you discovered maybe they were having a little trouble with parts of their task. Do they need help? How can we get them the support they need to do the extra stuff that they may not feel comfortable with, to allow them to feel more confident with this? And then document everything. A lot of these tasks are repeated, or the framework is repeated. So document as much as you can. And because we're in a technology world that allows this, put it in a cloud-based site somewhere that everybody can get to. It shouldn't be on Kim's computer, okay? It shouldn't be in Kim's trunk. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be somewhere that if Kim doesn't show up, where is it? Or if Kim leaves the organization, where does it go? Okay. So you should have these documents that are set up so that it can be handed over, and then you start building templates. So for a show, I'll go back to that example because it's huge. You could have a show template that you just, every year you change the date, you might change the venue, but it's pretty much all the same. You might change your headliner, any guest artists, MC might be different. I mean, you're just going to tweak, and it's already done. So you're not reinventing the wheel each time. And that's a more successful way of you being able to hand it over to somebody, because the framework's built. They just got to plug in the blanks, fill in the blanks. Okay. All right. So here's the benefits. So this is the thing that helps you, and this is why you do it. And this is something you might want to just post on your computer or somewhere even in your home. I think of delegating even at home. Are you the one that does the dishes all the time? Are you the one that does the laundry all the time? Are you the one that cleans the house all the time? Why is that? Because it's faster or a bit easier for you to do it yourself. So you can apply that logic in that instance as well. And then you wonder, why don't I have time to, learn my music and go to rehearsal? Well, I'm doing all the work at home and then trying to be an effective member of an organization, and I can't. And why am I doing all the work at home? Because I chose that environment, most likely. So basically, being an effective delegator, it's going to give you a whole lot more time to do the stuff that you want to do, that you have to do, and it will basically reduce all the stress that's involved in taking on everything in the world. Helps you focus on what's important to the organization and to yourself, so that you are really staying in your lane of what feeds you as a leader. Okay. It ensures successful results because, yes, you're delegating, but you've done it effectively. You've given them all the tools, all the descriptions, everything they need to do. So unless they don't follow that, it's going to be successful. And because you're going to set up a good follow-up and support scheme with that individual, you're going to ensure that the results are successful, because you're assisting them, not hovering and micromanaging them. It allows you to document everything that you're doing, as I said earlier, so that you can use that documentation for future reference. So you don't have to sit around and go, I'm going to put on a show. Where do I start? Okay, you've already documented that whole thing. It allows your members to grow, not only in confidence, but in capability. So some people, you may not realize that they're good at something until you let them try it. And if they have skills or an interest in something, that's key, because you've got something to work with. And once you begin building confidence, other people will see, oh, well, she took on that. She's never been done anything for the chorus that you know of anyway, of consequence. They're doing their little thing quietly perhaps, but now it's more out in the open. They're seeing that they were successfully managed and it was a good outcome. They felt like they were given the power to take on the task, and then they were rewarded when the task was completed. It allows you to develop and coach your people okay, I was just reading that. It's like I didn't read it right. It allows you to mentor them and develop them so that they gain confidence, not only as a performer, because there's so many aspects of what we do, because we're running it basically a small business, that gives them a pathway to do more in the chorus and develop their skills in the chorus. So there's some people that, they look at who's already in leadership and go, I'm never going to be like them. Well, no, you're not, because you're not them, but you're going to be a very effective version of you. And why don't we see what you can do? And let's get them, along the road in learning how to be better. So, you bring them into the music team. They can be a tape listener. Using the word tape, listen to their recordings. then maybe they might show some, some aptitude in that and more confidence. And so maybe they could become a section leader, or they could move into, any number of roles as increase their capabilities and increase their confidence. They will be more willing and able to take on more. And wouldn't it be nice if you could do that? Again, have a succession plan. That you should have a deep bench if you have enough membership, and even if you don't, there should be a bench with more than just you on it. so developing your bench, developing the culture in your chorus, that if I raise my hand and say I'll do it, I know I'll have the help and I will succeed. I will not be left to fail. And even if I can't do it, I know I can go to them and say, well, I was a little bit more than I thought I could be. So let me get some help from you, and maybe help get some assistance there. And it creates opportunities to provide recognition. We all love to hear our name called. I go back to Davey's comment years ago. One of her big goals back then was, I want my name in the pitch pipe. And so the first time it was like, I'm in the pitch pipe, I'm in the pitch pipe. It's just little things that bring you joy, that bring your members joy, when you constantly are praising just a small group of people, and now you're hearing some new names and they're saying, oh, they just said my name. Yeah, you're right, I did do that. So you're going to create more opportunities like that once you give them the right skill set and right support. Okay, so it's up to you. And I love this picture. She's just amazing. So remember that normally, if there's a failure in delegation, it's probably more about you. So there's some things that we can look at here in regard to the that aspect, which is how can we make sure that we don't have any issues where things fall through the cracks. Some of it has to do with making these delegations stick, and this is kind of an area that can interfere with this delegation success. And that is when somebody has an issue, it's kind of called the bounced back task, where they run into trouble, and rather than helping them fix it, you do it. So guess what? You're a delegator fail. So that thing comes back to you, and then you go back into your bad habits of I'll just do it, and you just undermine that whole delegation process. So now you've got more work to do. It's back. And the person that was doing the work goes, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not good enough to complete this task. So that is definitely something you got to be careful with. The other one is the grabbed back task, which is where you simply just take it back, where they're not meeting the timelines, or they're having trouble, or anything of that nature. You need to fix the problem with them. Don't say, okay, well, you had an issue. Maybe it wasn't them, but something along the way. And you step in and go, well, let me just take care of it. You need to work with them. And again, that's, you got to flex that delegation muscle to make sure that you give the power back to the person with the support and encouragement, and make sure that they're able to complete the task. So the key issue with this whole grab back, bounce back situation is making sure that you give them all the right instructions and training up front. And it will be a process. You'll find, oh, I forgot about that. Okay, we'll add that in. But with time, it will get easier. And I think part of the problem that I had early on was I wanted perfection. And if you are a perfectionist, you will definitely have issues, and it will be a challenge for you. So what you have to do is, again, what is the expected result? What am I expecting that end product to look like? And look at progress over perfection. If it isn't exactly perfect, it's still good. It's still acceptable. Maybe you might die a little on the inside, but the rest of the world will see that this person took this task to completion and they did a darn good job with it. Okay. And there are good people that are ready to take on more. So you got to be brave and try them out. Okay. So that is the end of my presentation. Let's take a look in the chat. See some of these comments. Yeah, that's shouldn't be in my head. Absolutely. Yes. Talent plan and succession. So any comments or observations, any things that you have seen, you can come off mute. And we've got a few minutes, we've got about like 6 minutes or so, to see if there's any things that you've run into in your life, either examples where it worked or concerns or questions you might have about ways that you could begin to flex that delegation muscle. I'm not sure who had their hand up first, so I'll start with Janet.
I think the most important thing that everybody needs to remember is that communication is the secret to success. Pass it on. So the more you communicate with someone you want to delegate to, the more comfortable they will be. And you need to give them a cheat sheet, you know, what is going to be expected. And then you kind of take the background and come back to me when you need me. Let me help you this way. I think that's what you have to do. But communication is the secret to success. Pass it on. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that shadowing concept, the region does that, where you have somebody, you know, who says, I'd like to take on that position. I think I have most of the skills, but I don't know how you do it. So let me shadow you. So that's another option for you as well. So Sharon, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that in listening to all of this, I feel very blessed that I have a leadership team that each and every one of them are people not only that you can delegate to, but they themselves can delegate. And as a result, we get things done. And I have the good fortune of being able to essentially walk away knowing that it's all taken care of.
Right.
So I feel really, really lucky.
Yeah. So if you have that, it's wonderful. You need to recognize it, encourage it, you know, like just actually say, you know, we're really good at this. And for other groups that have some that are good at it and some that aren't, have a session about delegation, you know, go through that as a team and say, we cannot, just because I have this job on the team does not mean I have to do this task. It just means I have to get it done. Okay. So all the things within there, you pick what you want to do or have to do, and then look at all the rest and say, who can we get to do all these things? And the skill survey is a huge help. And I highly recommend getting that done on a regular basis with your groups, like once a year or every 6 months or something like that, so that you can continue to attune people. You have new members coming in, people are leaving, people might be learning things on their jobs or somewhere else that now they can bring that education to play. Yeah, Sharon.
I just wanted to, it made me think about the fact that when I went on to the leadership teams 3 months into, after joining the chorus as secretary.
You heard that 3 months after she joined.
And never having been in Sweet Adeline before. But the team leader at the time handled everything except for taking the notes at the meeting. All communication, marketing, membership, you know, handled everything. So when I became team leader 3 months later, it was like, I cannot do this all, nor will I do this all, and turn to the people that were there and said, okay, you're on, do it.
You have the job, I'm going to let you do it. Yeah. So that's the flip side of this, is recognizing leaders who aren't delegating, who are taking on too much, and maybe an intervention with them to say, look, I appreciate that you have the expertise, but none of it's being done effectively. And we have to divvy these jobs up to the people that we've put in those positions. Exactly. Otherwise, there's no point in having them. We'll go back to a board of directors, and you know, it'll be a dictatorship. You don't want to get into that mode, right? You want to have buy-in all the way, because it's a volunteer organization. If there were a paycheck involved in this wouldn't be as critical, because if your boss says you got to do this, you're going to go, okay. Whereas in a volunteer organization, we're pleading, begging, cajoling. And then we've got to make sure that the subtext, the culture behind what we're saying or how we operate feeds into that, inclusive. Like if you ask me my opinion and then you don't listen to me, I'm gonna stop giving you my opinion. So all those things feed together.
Right.
Good. Anything else? Any other comments?
I really appreciated the practicalness of this class because I think, I definitely fall into that control trap, right? And so you can find someone always, right? You might be able to find someone and say, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But then you can't stay away, right? And so this is like, I liked, and how clear it was to be able to say, here are the steps I need to take, so I appreciated that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's going, you're seeing the logic in my mind played out in a slide presentation. It's like logically, where do I start? What do I have to do? And I reading some of this stuff, I'm like, oh boy, that's me. That is so me. I got some changing to do. But the good news is it will give me time. So you got to invest time to get that time back, and you're going to get it back in a bigger quantity than anything else. So. All right. Yes, ma'am. Janet.
I have found that you have to observe the members in your course to see how they react to things. And since I've been nominating chair for a while, giving out those applications and reading what these people can do is like, oh my God, this gal can do this and this gal has done that. And let's tap her for this and let's tap her. So that was a good educational road for me. Right.
And that brings up a good point is like, as you're getting familiar with something, start with small tasks and see how they do, and then they're going to gain confidence. You're going to gain trust. And then you build on that. So you don't want to take somebody who's brand new, who's got a lot of time and say, do the show. That's just not, you're not going to trust them. You're going to hover over that one for sure. I guarantee you. Right. So you got to be reasonable in the way you approach this, but yeah, so cool. So anything else? All right. Thank you so much. I'm glad I had an audience to talk to. This is awesome. If you have any questions or want to dig into any of these subjects, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to help you out. And if there's people on this call that you can network with that said something that you were like, I like what she said, I'm going to talk to her a little further about that. Please do that. Women are not really good at networking. So let's, take care of each other and be either a horrible example or a good role model. Right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.